Yo guys, what's going on? It's Kryptic TNG and welcome to round 2 season 7 of the AOR GT3 Elite Championship. And yeah, this time we're at Brno and weather forecast is set to wet, so it's going to be a tough race. Try not to make any mistakes in the rain, and obviously trying to keep your tyres intact. I mean, it's hard. Once you slide once and then you get to burn your tyres up, it's so hard to recover them. So it's going to be a tough race, and yeah, it was a very good race, especially the first sort of 10 laps. But this is how the championship standings are at the moment after round 1, and yeah, we need to get some serious points on the board after what was a pretty dismal end to Monza. And also team standings, as a team we need to sort of get the Z4s on the map, because we had a good chance to get 3rd and 4th in the last race, but we messed it all up. So yeah, now I'm going to show my qualifying lap, my best qualifying lap for the Brno race. So yeah, let's see how we managed to do. So we actually managed to go provisional pole position at the time, and I was a little scared with the time I got, because I actually went like 4 tenths quicker in practice. I was thinking maybe they might be able to get me, and I was actually going my next lap was actually a quicker lap, but for some strange reason I just completely lost where I was on the track. I broke myself, and it was pretty much a nail-biting finish to the session, waiting to see if anyone beat the time, but I managed to keep it. So onto the rolling start. And for some reason, like in practice, it just never ever seemed this dark. At the start of the race, it seemed so dark. I was thinking, Jesus, am I going to be able to spot my my braking markers? Because I don't use the braking boards or anything like that. I actually use the color of the tarmac. When the tarmac starts to get dark, I know it's time to brake. So it was so dark, I was thinking, am I going to be able to see? But managed to deal with it. As you can see, my rear tyres got so cold on a rolling start. I was thinking, please just don't drop it into turn 1, because it's a corner where you're braking and turning all at the same time. And yeah, I got a reasonable start, but I could feel Telmo on my outside, and I was hoping Telmo would be able to stay in 2nd place, because I knew how quick CJ was at the start of the race in the Bentley. In a practice race, he was literally just all over me at the start, and you can see there CJ gets into 2nd place. So now I just try and get my head down, but I couldn't push too hard because my tyres still were quite cold. I just didn't want to make a mistake and end up dropping positions, because it's so hard to follow in the spray, it really is. in practice I'd been behind someone, and yeah, I just couldn't see anything. And then in practice CJ got past me, and then I had to do with 2 lots of spray, and oh god, it really does, it definitely affects my pace anyway, it really does. But yeah, just trying to keep it clean and consistent for the first few laps. And you can see CJ is coming with me, and we're probably just starting to break away a little bit. I think Manuel's got into 3rd place in the Audi, which is probably isn't the best track for Audi, so his qualifying lap was even more impressive, judging he was only 2 tenths off in the Audi. It's a really good lap. But yeah, you can see us starting to break away from the pack a little bit, and I could see that green grille on that Bentley just catching me in all the braking zones, and I'm just thinking, please, just focus and just try and get away as quick as you can. But CJ, really good driver, especially in the Bentley. He's the Bentley specialist. He pulls some crazy performance out of that car sometimes, and yeah, I knew that I wouldn't be able to break him straight away. I had to pretty much wait a little bit until the tires start dropping off, or till his tires start overheating, because when you're following someone, your tires do tend to overheat. They tend to wear a little bit quicker. And yeah, I knew I was up for a battle in the first few laps here. And if you see as well, in all the braking zones, he must take at least three tenths out of me. All the braking zones. I think for me, my strongest point of the track was probably the last sector, the last few corners. I was getting a really good line going through him. I can see now lap 3, still haven't managed to break him, can't get away from him. And as I said, in every braking zone he's just taking loads of time out of me, so I just focused on trying to get good exits out of every corner, so we couldn't really get a run on me. But as you can see, it's just constant pressure. I couldn't relax for a second, not even for a second. It's just, and sometimes that's the best way to get performance out of yourself. When you're under pressure, you tend to perform a little bit better, or of course you can go the other way and just completely just flop and fold. But I enjoy the race, and I enjoy the tight battles and stuff like that. I'm sure CJ's the same, and yeah, we were just pushing each other and ended up just pulling away from everybody else. And I think this was the corner where I was just getting off the corner just a little bit better, so I was always just that little bit safe going into turn 1. You could see in turn 1 we take massively different lines, and he was closing up so much every time we got to turn 1. You can see how close he was getting in turn 1, and yeah, it was every time I went for that corner I was looking in my mirror, like every time, and it was just that flash of green you get from the grille. It really can like put you off a little bit. And lap 5 now, and yeah, nothing's changed. He's still there, and you'll probably see again different lines through turn 1 and how much he actually closes up. And he ends up actually getting a nose beside me, so I couldn't just swipe across the track. And you can see he's right behind me now, but obviously I must have had lower downforce for him not to be able to just out-drag me to turn 3, turn 2. But he was up the inside, so I actually picked to stay right to give me the inside line for the next corner. But you'll see on the exit of this corner, I just get a bit of a tank slapper on, have to catch it, and then yeah, he gets a run on the outside, and I couldn't see where he was on my blind spot. I turned in, he was actually past me, but he turned in a little bit soon, and then we ended up touching. And then yeah, at the time I wasn't sure whose fault it was, so I just waited for him so we can continue the battle. But you see everybody else catch up, and I started thinking, oh shit, now we're in trouble. The whole pack's caught up, and then yeah, but you can see again we just carry on where we left off, and we end up pulling another gap. And yeah, even after 6 laps, nose to tail, he was still there. And I was just thinking, I hope this guy's tires go off soon, because I hate driving while just having to constantly look behind, constantly look in the mirror, because it's a lot harder to focus on your pace throughout the race. Because in practice, or whenever I was by myself, I would be running sort of low to mid 205s, and you can see now I'm literally just stuck in the 206s, defending every corner. And yeah, it was a nightmare. But we just had to focus as well. We had to look after the front left tire, because that's the one that did wear more than any other tire. But I was pretty sure that we could probably get to the end without pitting, and I know CJ said he could get to the end without pitting, so this was always going to be like a race long battle. So I was trying to look after the tires, just trying to stay consistent, not give him any opportunities, and just making sure primarily I was getting good exits out of the corner, trying not to get any wheel spin, because once your rear tires start burning up, then you're in trouble. You really are. You can see lap 6, CJ's still there. You'll see again through the first corner how different our lines are, and he knew our lines were very different through the first corner, so he would take a slightly tighter line and hope to just get a nose on my inside, so I'd have to leave him room, which stops me from getting on the power as soon. And yeah, he was always very close in sector 1, because even in qualifying, his sector 1s, they were just ridiculous. And in the race, he definitely had a faster first sector than us, and wasn't really much we could do about that. He just seemed to be able to get on the power so soon out of turn 1. And yeah, I just had to focus. Mainly my focus was on getting the middle sector right, and especially the last sector right, because I felt like that's where we were quicker than anybody else. So that's what I was trying to focus on, just making sure in that last sector that it's the corners going up the hill. Just take a different line. I just try to get the car as straight as possible going through them corners, so you can get on the power really quickly, and it seemed to be working for me. But now it's just seeing if I could break away. Like this whole 7 laps, I don't think I've had more than a second gap, not once. I don't think the time's been under 8 tenths. So the moment I got a little break, that's the time I was going to try and just put my foot down. But as you can see, the different lines we take again, he's just always there closing us down, always there in my mirror, and I just couldn't get a rhythm. I could not get a rhythm just watching him in the rear view mirror. I couldn't put anything together. But I just knew as long as I kept getting good last sectors, and if I could just do something just a little bit quicker in the first sector and keep a steady middle sector, then I should be able to slightly start pulling away. But it was easier said than done. Yeah, so coming to the end of the lap now, and I think that was a really good corner for me. Just let me pull out enough so he wouldn't be able to put his nose on the inside of my car for turn 1. And yeah, just kept it pushing. And I think now this is probably the first time I've got like a little bit of breathing space, and I think the gap goes up to just over a second for the first time on lap 9. And yeah, I started to think maybe this is the time to pull away. And I know for CJ, he had to back off just to cool his tires down, because his tires were just burning up, sat in my slipstream. And yeah, this is the point of the race where I had to really start pushing, really start trying to grind them laps out, because if I could just build a little bit of gap and get in my rhythm, I should be okay. But once I could see, especially in the last sector, that's the point where I was sort of making the breakaway. I just thought, yeah, every time I get to this last sector, I'm just gonna try and nail it. But also, I was a little bit nervous, because in practice I actually hit a couple of glitches, so I ended up resetting my wheel settings and everything just to make sure. I didn't want to hit any invisible walls. I didn't want to get any landmine bugs, which I got in practice. And now you'll see, just try to stay consistent, try to bang in them low 206s, and I'm still a bit confused, because I mean, in practice straight away I could pretty much just get in the 205s. You see now, lap 12, I think it's the first time I'm gonna get into the 205s. Managed to do a 205.8, and you can see now we're starting to pull out the gap a little bit. And yeah, you see again now I'm on a quicker lap. I'm not sure if this, I think this might have been my fastest lap. But yeah, it was all about that consistency and just keep on grinding them lap times out. And yeah, finally I was just constantly lapping in the 205s, because I was a bit baffled at my pace at the beginning of the race. Maybe it was just the distraction of having someone just all over me. But yeah, as again hit another 205, and this is pretty much what I was doing to try and get away. Just keep knocking the same lap times out over and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, I think this was my fastest lap of the race. So I'm going to leave you with this lap, and it wasn't too far off my qualifying time actually. It just shows you that I could have went a lot quicker in quali, but I don't know, I just messed it all up. But I'm going to leave you with my fastest lap of the race. So as you can see, we've done another 2:05.3, and yeah, pretty good race pace. I was quite happy with that. Again, going along with what we was doing in practice, pretty much spot on for where I expected to be. And yeah, from now on it was just try and keep consistent and just try and keep the tyres in, not make any mistakes, because it's quite tricky conditions, especially getting out of corners. You want to get a good run. I found the best way was trying to straighten the car up as soon as possible so you can apply like full throttle, and yeah, it was working for me. As you can see, just gradually now starting to just break away from CJ, as his tyres, while he was sitting behind me, and probably just burnt all up, and he probably didn't even have any tyres left. But as you can see, our tyres are quite decent. Tyre wear was decent for us. We know that in the Z4 you're always going to have pretty good tyre wear, so yeah, as I said, just trying to stay focused, trying to keep my head down, and hoping I didn't run into any glitches. I'm pretty sure that a few other people ran into like invisible wall bugs and stuff like that. I obviously got a few bugs last race, and so did Telmo, I think. And I know that some of the guys in the pro tier, they ran into invisible walls, so it is a problem. But hopefully, I mean, with me changing my wheel settings, going back to normal, I won't get any problems for a little while. But yeah, it's the first car I'm coming up to lap. I couldn't see him. I didn't know if he was still side by side, so I just started flashing my lights, hoping to see him like back off before the corner. And yeah, I ended up running a little bit wide, but it wasn't nothing big, wasn't nothing major. And yeah, I think he starts flashing his lights at me to remind me to put my lights back on. And yeah, in AOR, especially in tough conditions, anything, if it's wet, if it's dark, you have to run. As a rule, you have to run with your lights on, which is pretty normal to me, because even in sunshine, daytime, I always run with the lights on. I find it easier to see the display inside the car. So yeah, going on now, lap 24, not too long to go to the end. Tyres still pretty good. I'm still actually managing pretty fast times. I'm still in the 2:05, so it was looking pretty good. Yeah, it's only now I'll start to relax a bit, and just all I gotta do is just stick to the same lines, and I should be okay for the win. But CJ was still there, so if I did make any mistakes, he was still there ready to pounce. After 26 laps, he was only 6 seconds behind me, so as you can see, it's incredibly tough, especially in the top tier, to win races, to get away from people, because everyone's so fast, everyone's so competitive. And that was our thinking pretty much when we picked the Z4, was we know it's going to be good around the majority of tracks. We knew we took a hit with the first race at Monza, even though we probably should have done a little bit better than we did do, maybe not any fault of our own, but I think Monza was probably the weakest track for us on the track listing. But Now going into lap 28, just 4 laps to go, and yeah, still in the 205. So everything's looking pretty good. About 8-second lead at the moment, and yeah, it was pretty much just boring for the rest of the race. Just trying to stay focused, trying not to do anything stupid, and you know, just keep the pace going. We're coming up to lap another car shortly, but yeah, other than that, the second half of the race definitely wasn't as exciting as the first half, but it was always a challenge because of the conditions. It was always going to be a challenge, and yeah, I mean, I did actually save the replay of the race, and I would have actually brought more highlights from some of the other guys' perspectives, because believe me, it was going down behind me and CJ. It was definitely going down, but for some reason in the replay, everyone's cars were different, and it was just there was no point. You wouldn't have been able to tell who was who. So yeah, I mean, it was behind us. Trust me, it really was a very, very busy race indeed. And you can see now we're coming up to lap somebody else, and when I get up behind him, you'll see actually how bad the spray can be. It really is hard to follow in the spray, and it does take away a little bit from your tires as well, which you'd think even in wet conditions that it wouldn't really wear your tires because of how cool the tires are, but trust me, it definitely messes with your tire temperatures and stuff like that. Oh yeah, you can see me catching up to someone to lap him, and again, it's always sometimes you can get not a bit nervous, but you have to be a bit wary when you're lapping people, because you never know, they could run into an invisible wall. When you're right up behind them, you could smash straight into the back of them, or they can spin in front of you, or they could just not see you coming, especially when it's raining like this. So you always have to be a little bit wary when you're approaching people to lap them, and at the same time try not to put them off too much, because they can get distracted and you can end up ruining someone else's race as well. So yeah, I tried to keep an eye. I didn't start flashing my lights before the braking zone, because I know that can definitely put people off when you're about to brake and someone starts flashing their lights. But yeah, once I get to the straight, I'll flash my lights a couple times, let him know that I'm there, and yeah, he just moves over nicely. So yeah, that was Deuce Miles, who was obviously, there was a lot of controversy over the first race, but he had a much better second race, and yeah, showed some decent pace. And yeah, 2 laps to go now, lap 31. Fast forward again to lap 32, and yeah, just in the middle sector, not too many corners to go, but for some reason our car just got really sketchy in the last 2 laps. It was just really tail happy, so I just completely backed off. You can see CJ ended up taking about almost 3 seconds out of me in the last 2 laps. I really just started braking early. The car was just starting to slide. I could feel it. Every time I was going around the corner, it just wanted to wanted to come round, so I just started taking it really slowly going through the corners. You can see I'm like 1.3 seconds down now on my best lap, but as long as I got to the end without making a mistake, I was happy enough. And yeah, finally managed to get a win in AOR GT3 Elite, and yeah, after the first race, it was a welcome victory. And yeah, CJ ran me close all the way, and he's probably going to be the biggest championship rival, because he just seems to have pace everywhere. He's just fast every track, everywhere. You can't really see him. You know, he's rarely going to finish off the podium, this guy. He's a really quick guy, and yeah, as you can see, he managed to get fastest lap, pole position, and the win, so I got the full sweep. So I was happy with that. I was so happy the race was over. So happy the race was over. And last few laps the car was really sketchy. See, our teammate managed to come home in 4th place, but that'll be subject to a steward's inquiry, as he did get into an incident with Manuel. So yeah, hopefully we can get some more good results in the next race, which is Laguna Seca, because we're actually leading the team standings at the minute. So hopefully we can push forward. The next few tracks look quite good for us. We've got Laguna Seca coming up next week, and yeah, we got to try and make sure we get a good result for the team there as well. So yeah, if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Next week again, same thing, Kryptic TMG. Peace.